If there's one person to watch in 7.33, it has to be Topson. Topson has a 75% win rate on Void Spirit in this patch so far. Of all the crazy new heroes in this patch, why did Topson pick Void Spirit? Well, this new patch introduced a new attribute to Dota, and Void Spirit was one of the 4 traditional mid-type heroes that have moved from their old attribute to this new universal attribute, the 3 others being Wind Ranger, Batrider, and Pangolier. The significant change to universal heroes is they gain 0.6 damage for each stat of any attribute, and apparently Valve's engineers assured us that this number is perfectly balanced. So, what this means for Void Spirit is you no longer need to build intelligent based items anymore, meaning you can now buy stat based items and you'll gain damage. So Topson decided to bring back physical Void Spirit. So let's go through how he plays Void Spirit. Starting with his early game build, Topson goes 4 Ironwood branches and 1 circlet. And notice how high his base damage and health is. He's sitting at over 700 HP and can do 75 damage at level 1. In lane, besides Topson using his 3rd ability to secure range creeps, Topson will try to harass the mid enemy with his Aether Remnant whenever he can. But when does he choose to use his Remnant? Well, that depends on when the enemy walks to the low ground. And when they do, he positions the Aether Remnant behind but across the lane, not along the lane. This ensures a 100% hit rate as it covers the whole path. This is not to say Aether Remnanting in a straight line is bad, but use your environment to your advantage like Topson. So here's another example on Zeus. And finally in this example, Topson gets a kill on Techies by landing the Remnant. Techies could have juked the Remnant if Topson decided to throw the Remnant in a straight line. If he did that, he would have missed the kill. So again, use your environment to your advantage. But what happens when the enemy doesn't run back into your Remnant? Well, you get free auto attacks off. Another tip for using Aether Remnant in lane is to use it defensively. So here, when Topson sees Techies' animation for Blast Off, instead of using Remnant to cancel the animation, he instead tanks it and tries to leverage his health to make Techies step onto his high ground. And when the melee creep de-aggroes, he uses Aether Remnant to make Techies tank 2 tower hits and a few auto attacks from his next creep wave. This harass wouldn't be possible if Topson had stopped Blast Off animation from the start. And finally, similar to how Topson plays Moretta, he uses Aether Remnant to taunt the enemy so he can deny his creeps. Alright, enough about his Remnant, what about items? Well, during the laning phase, Topson brings himself a Bracer after bottle. If he gets first blood, which he does quite a bit, he'll buy a Bracer first, before buying the bottle. But notice with a Bracer and 2 branches, he has 900 HP. That's a lot of HP for a spell casting hero. Then, by 8 minutes, at level 7, with this build, Void Spirit has 1300 HP with 115 damage. Let that sink in for a bit. The first real item Topson gets in this right click build is Echo Saber. And notice, with Echo Saber, Treads, and Bracer, again, he's at 1600 HP. In case you don't think that's tanky, I'll just show you an example. Here Topson gets ganked and RP is used, but because he's not actually an int hero anymore, he's a universal hero, so with that additional 18 strength that he's bought, look how much more HP he has and he survives the gank without using his wand. For solo combos, the first thing you should do is switch to agility treads, as it's better than strength treads, because with your damage being so high from right clicks, the attack speed will allow you to hit in between your ulti before you use your remnant, as most players would use their ulti, remnant, and instantly dissimulate. However, with this build, try to ulti, use the slow to get your Echo Saber hits off, and try to go for an additional 3rd hit before you remnant, if you can. While we're talking about solo kills, let's see an efficient use of Astral Step. In this example, notice how Topson doesn't ulti right away, but instead he right clicks, because if he uses his ulti on Wind Ranger, she could just wind run away. So instead, Topson waits as long as he can to use his ult, to close the gap for when Wind Run is running out. If he used both Astral Steps the moment he saw Wind Ranger to try to burst her, he wouldn't have done enough damage and Wind Runner would have wind ran away. So in summary, use your Astral Step to close the gap to get more auto attacks off, or to help you land your Remnant. It shouldn't be used as a bursting spell in the early game unless you're 100% sure you can escape afterwards. Just quickly to get the item build out of the way. As mentioned, he gets a Bracer, Treads, Echo Saber, but after all that, he gets either Deso or a Daedalus. If he needs, he'll go back for a BKB, and it's not uncommon to see him go Daedalus and Silver's Edge if he needs it, and usually by that time he would win the game. Otherwise, I've seen he shift Q Satanic to finish it off. Again, it's all about being tanky and doing damage. Thanks for sticking with me until now. Finally, we'll get into the fun part of how Topson fights with his team. I hate to bring this up again, but the first thing is to recognize how tanky you are now as Void Spirit, meaning you can bait for your team. So here, it's 13 minutes into the game, and Topson, with his items, is happy to bait for the Riki and Pudge. He waits for Enchantress to get close enough before jumping on the Riki with his combo, and his reflexes accidentally make him dodge the hook, but Riki still dies. But what this clip shows is you're no longer this weak Void Spirit intelligence hero anymore, but you're a tankier mid hero that can actually initiate or start a fight. The second thing Topson does in fights is he always identifies the best target to jump, and not blindly jumping on the first support he sees. So here, while Topson's teleporting in, he looks for the highest kill threat to his team and identifies that as Puck. So once the fight breaks out, he helps his team kill Puck before she can get her combo and Dream Coil off. And with Puck gone, they should have the highest chance of winning this fight. After they get Puck, notice how he turns his attention to Magnus, as Magnus is the next key to helping Radiant win this team fight. He ignores Lycan for now, as he just wants to stop Magnus from using RP. The moment Magnus RPs, notice how Topson's camera immediately loses interest in Magnus, and only when RP is used does he decide to help his team with Lycan. If he aimed Lycan from the start, right after killing Puck, he might have got counter-initiated by Magnus RP. So before you fight, look at the other team's draft and figure out who you want to jump before the fight breaks out, and who's the biggest threat for your team, as you're tanky enough to distract them for your team to clean up the rest. Here is an even more ridiculous example. Topson ultis in and uses Resonant Pulse immediately. As it hit 2 players, it bumps his shield to 340 physical damage block, so with this shield, his total health can be considered close to 2000 HP, so he's confident in searching for more kills. Lucky for him, he gets reinitiated on by the Riki, and he's actually happy to walk into a Pudge and Nightstalker because he wants them to waste utility on him, and like in the previous clip, he wants to take their attention away from his team. He kites with his Dissimulate because his shield is on cooldown, and Astral steps to the high ground to pull Riki away from the fight. And what Topson is doing here is stalling. He's stalling long enough to hopefully bring another core to him, and Pudge reacts. And since Topson kited long enough for his Resonant Pulse to be off cooldown, he gets another 2-man shield off. He runs for a bit, but realizes the fight's not over, as he notices his carry wants to join the fight, and his Disruptor has ulti. Notice how, at this point, he's not actually at 600 HP, he's more at 900 if he can get his shield off again. So his team gets an easy kill on Urza, and then Riki. Notice how Topson isn't afraid to fight Nightstalker one-on-one, while Nightstalker has his ultimate active. Topson actually chooses to fight Nightstalker, and stalls Nightstalker long enough for Moretta to get her dead shot off, and they get the kill on Nightstalker. So what can we take away from this? The universal hero Void Spirit is tankier and does more right click damage, but only right click when your shield or Resonant Pulse is up, and kite using your Astral Step and Dissimulate to buy time for yourself, for your shield and Astral Steps to come back up. If you paid attention, you've realized I skipped over Dissimulate entirely throughout this video, and that's because, as you saw in the last clip, Topson only uses Dissimulate to help him reposition in a team fight. While in most games, Topson actually maxes this spell because it scales better than Resonant Pulse when they're both at max level, he only uses Dissimulate to burst someone in the early game or to farm creeps. But once he gets Echo Saber, he doesn't feel it's worth using. He would rather get 3 right clicks off, and I'll show you what I mean. So for the Cuddle kill, notice he doesn't use Dissimulate, as he would rather get his right clicks off, because each right click does about 190 to 195 damage, and he believes that's enough damage to get the kill. Same thing for the Puck kill. He could have timed his Dissimulate with Phase Shift, because we know Topson can, but it seems he values right click damage with this build way more than his Dissimulate, by the way he's spamming auto clicking on the ground. While looking into this, Topson did try the magical build here and there, but I watched those games and I'll be honest, they're pretty boring. Most of it was just his team being better than the other team, and it seems like he's also bored of the magic build because he keeps going back for the Echo Saber Deso build time and time again. Anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and let me know what hero player you want to see next. Alright, bye.